Hey, my name is Mark. I'm in Charleston, South Carolina, and I just completed a 2-inch body lift on my Hummer H1. It's a 97, and it has 31,000 miles on it. I've seen other videos on YouTube, but nobody really discusses some of the hard things or tells you what they did to overcome those issues. So I will go pretty in-depth, and sometimes it's real-time installation and the problem solving that I had to go through to rectify those things. Some of them, like the steering column going through the FIrewall, how I had to extend that. There's a rubber duck kit, how it helped, but not that much, and what I did to rectify that. Also talk about the gas tank. That was a tough one. And of course, I'm sure that you've seen the other videos the guys have out there where they mention the driver's side lift, but I go into detail about how hard that was, the problems I ran into, and what I did to overcome those issues. I did use the rubber duck 4x4 complete kit. I think it was around $1,100. There were some things that were totally worth the money, and then there were other things too that I kind of question. I think they could be better, and I did resolve some of those things. I did end up not using their lift for the hood. I went with Anvil Motorworks instead, because Anvil's brackets replace the H1 bracket. And it's right there, which is really nice. It's powder coated steel as opposed to a plastic block. But the reason I went with that is because it also lifts the brush guard as well. Anyway, having said that, it is an amazing experience doing this. It's really hard. I estimate anywhere between 28 and 34 hours, I think, to do this. And I think I did it right. I'm enjoying the truck. I'm loving it. It's still a work in progress. I have a lot to do on it. I'm doing a lot of detailing underneath, taking parts off, getting them powder coated, replacing all the hardware with stainless. Don't forget to use anti-seize on your stainless and to use Loctite on your bolts. I hope you enjoy this video, and I hope it helps you. I sure would have liked to have seen a video like this before I did this project, because H1 is different in many ways than the Humvee. And it's more difficult than Humvee because things are not as accessible as they are on Humvee. So let me know what you think. Ask questions. I'll try to answer them. And I hope you enjoy the video and bear with it through the long part, because I can tell you it'll help you. This morning I'm going to be installing a 2-inch body lift on my 97 Hummer H1. And he's going to help me. It's my baby Great Dane. Anyway, I've watched a couple of videos already on YouTube, Split Builds and a couple other guys, but those are all Humvees, so I'm just curious to see what differences there are on an H1 and the Humvee. Even though it's the same truck basically, an H1 has got more in the way. We'll find out as we get into it. So removing the body bolt, the body mount bolt on the driver's side of the truck by the exhaust pipe is probably the easiest one. Using vice grips on here just for the purpose of the video, because I had to use 2 hands with the wrench. But just to demonstrate how this is the easiest one to get to. So that one's pretty easy to get to. It's easy enough to get to, but boy, it's on there. So it's fairly loose. I'm just take a pry bar. The whole thing comes out. Okay, going around to this side. Found this one's a lot easier to get to. The wrench just kind of sits up there, jammed against the frame bracket. I already pre-loosened it. I've been wrestling with this for about 15 minutes, trying to get this stinking bolt out of here. I'm using pry bars and everything. I'm turning it. I cannot get that sucker to come down any further. See, like it looks like it's actually sitting at an off angle in there somehow. Let me think for a minute. All right, I used a pry bar on it like this and just kept banging on it, and it finally came out. Goodness. That's one more off. Okay, taking off number 4, which is right there. Now this one looks like it's easy enough to get to, so hopefully it'll come out nice and easy. So this one is going super easy. Super easy. For a change, that's nice. But I do have to hold it with 2 hands. All right, moving on to the front too. So, unlike the Humvee, it's a little more hidden because we've got the skid plate in the way. And there's a fuel lines here. It's up in there. You can see that. It's awkward. I put the wrench up there already. It's awkward to get to, but this nut is going to be difficult. So I'm going to have to go to Home Depot and get an extension. Okay, back from Home Depot, and I have an extension on my impact wrench. Let's see if we can get this sucker. Getting that, you can reach that top nut up from up here. Not much space. Nope. Let's try that again. Let's see if we can get that on there. It's awkward up there. All right, try this. If I can get that top nut. Wow, it is down there. That's an awkward spot. Nope, not yet. Come on. Brake hand is breaking here. All right, I think I've got the wrench on up there. That can't be off, that was too easy. Wow, it's off already. Nut was on the bottom. That wasn't as hard as I thought. All right, so I'm turning the bolt from the top and it's just sliding up. Come on, baby, come on. Oh, come on, go out of there. All right, I'm gonna have to get a punch of some kind to push it up there. Be right back. I may have to get a longer punch. but we'll see. All right, making contact. Oh, I think that's loose. There we are, perfect. It is out. Voila. Now let's see if there's probably a washer sitting up on top of there. Yep. Okay, last body mount. Located up there. Let's see here. There's a wrench. Yeah, that's not a problem. It's on there, okay. Now, there's this hole in the control arm. If I can get my arm up in there, I hope I don't have to take this underbody protection bar off to get to it. No, I can reach. That works. Because I know the Humvees do not have these. All right, I can almost reach it, so with the wrench I should be able to get up in there. Get up in there. I'm going to drop that on my face. There's the top. Okay, so that is a nut on the top. Well, of course, because you can't drop that. Okay, here we go. I knew that was going to happen. Let's try that again. Use the open end. Holy smokes. Well, it's coming loose. That's good. Let's see if we can get this jammed over this side, but I don't want to drop it on my head. Alright, so it's going up very slowly, but going. Alright. Spacer. Nut. Ratchet. Let's get that big rubber spacer off of there. Let's just leave it on. Okay, to get this last bolt out, we're gonna have to come in from the top. Where is it? There it is, right there. I have to see if I can get a pry bar in there. At the same time and do this. Tricks. So unlike the Humvee, the H1 has got trim underneath the dash. So in order to get to the steering column that goes down, which I can feel it right there where it goes, and just up here, so this panel is going to have to come off. And there's just a bunch of screws underneath there. So that was pretty easy. That was like a minute and a half to take it out. There was only like 6 screws. And some wiggling, finagling to get this out of there. And just unplugging that, which goes to the courtesy light. And we can see where the steering column goes in to the firewall right there. So it looks like in order to cut it down, I have to take this rubber boot off and probably to take this panel out, which will be a pain in the butt, because to take that panel out, I had to take out all of these screws to the top trim, and I'm probably gonna have to take out the seat, but we'll see. So I just used a 3/8 wrench on the back of these and a standard screwdriver, that's all. Ooh, don't want to lose that last one down there. Okay, so there are, right there, that bolt's got to come out, and there's another one here. If you see it, to get to it. I don't know if we can cut that lower without taking this off. Possibly if I'm careful. Anyway, I'm going to take those two bolts. Oh, there's another bolt up there too. Yep, another one up there. 1, 2, 3. So these bolts up there are 7/16. I sure hope that they are not nuts on the other side somewhere on the inside of the firewall. That would not be good. So I was looking, in order to take this gray panel off, I can't let go of my hand here at the moment. This gray panel off, you have to take off that top panel. And to get that top panel off, you got to undo the doghouse and take it off. So, and oh, including the panel in the back seat as well. So this last nut is difficult, but I did get the socket on there. Taking that last one out to see if I will be able to trim it down without taking this panel off. I would imagine that these panels are probably no longer available, so you certainly don't want to break it. I mean, this one's already got a crack right here. So, still wrestling trying to get that last bolt out of there. Okay, so as it turns out, where the steering column goes through the firewall, excuse me, Annie, somebody, brilliant idea, thought that it would be acceptable to have a nut right there, and it is just barely reachable from underneath. Got it. Okay. Don't forget when you come out that your door is open. Now that I'm done rubbing my head, there's two pieces to this. Take that last bolt out of there, and do not drop anything down behind, because it would be really fun trying to get it out of there. Okay. So now we can see why they say that you have to cut the firewall, because there's already no tolerance there at all. That steering column, that steering rod goes right through there. It's actually touching the firewall. So I'm wondering if I'll be able to cut this with a Dremel. I don't know if I can get 2 inches. I don't know if I can get in there. We're gonna try it though. You're probably thinking, why is it easy to just take the panel out? But it's not. I mean, I gotta take out the whole seat. That's not gonna be fun, because the other two bolts are on the other side. Hard to get at. And taking off all of this. I don't know. I certainly don't want to cut that. I'm gonna think on this for a minute. So Rubber Duck's kit shows that they cut away that plastic shroud. It looks terrible. And they supplied me the relocation kit, which comes with those two pieces. They're very similar to these ones, except they seem to be a little similar. They're similar to the original ones, but they're a little wider on the bottom. And it came with a new boot, which is exactly the same as the old one. So no matter how I look at it, I'm going to have to cut this anyway because the steering shaft has got to come down 2 inches on the firewall, which means I still got to cut into this panel. So drew it so it's as least obtrusive as possible. And we're going to cut it with a Dremel, and after I get that, I'll see where I got to cut the firewall. We've got the piece cut out, just gonna smooth it up a little bit on the edges. Well, the plastic looks good. And I'm gonna cut through. I wish I'd cut down here exactly where that line is, and it should fit. Okay, from underneath the truck, looking up at the footwell where the steering rod comes through the firewall, I don't know if the Humvee has all of this fireproofing or heat protection, but it's fairly thick. I mean, it looks like it's, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch thick. Anyway, you can see behind there where my cut has come so far. Still got a ways to go. The Dremel doesn't seem to be doing a very good job. I'm going to continue with that because I don't want to put a jigsaw in there. I don't even think I can get a jigsaw in there. I'm going to have to do it with a hand with a hacksaw. All right, come to the conclusion that using those big power tools is a little dangerous with all the stuff that's around here. So we're just going to do this old-fashioned way with a hacksaw. I already checked to make sure that we're not cutting through any cables or anything on the other side. There's enough clearance in there. The length of this blade too, even though it's going to take a while, is going to cut through that insulation that's on the other side too. So after lots of breaking Dremel wheels, I finally cut through the firewall, 2 inches here to here. However, run into this. So from back underneath the truck, all right, so there's the hole that I cut. And you can see there's some kind of, it's a structural bend in the footwell compartment for rigidity and strength. So I'm assuming that that part at least would be the same on a Humvee. So I started with the Dremel, but to get through that lip, I didn't want to use a power tool because there's too much chance of damaging something in that area, so I'm using this handsaw. And once you're through the top lip, it seems to be going pretty good. Just angling the nose of the blade down so it doesn't hit that power line or the hose that's in there. So I ended up using a short Sawzall blade just to get through it. so that it's clean, but the blade took off that piece of plastic that goes there. I think I'll be able to, I'll just kind of plastic weld that in place afterwards. I don't even know what that round hole is for. Be welcome. Anyone wants to suggest what it's for, I'd like to know. So before I go to the next step and lift it, I need the next step to look at is the bag where the linkage is in. I've never been underneath a Humvee, so I don't know if they have one of these or not. But it looks like that it has snaps on it. And getting your hand up there. Aha, it does. It just snaps open. Okay. So, lesson learned. I should know this already. I mean, I'm a photographer by trade. Protect my eyes at all costs. I think I need to go get some safety glasses because I came underneath there and as soon as I looked up there, dirt fell on my eyes, so I'll be right back. So the extended linkage kit on the H1, we have this some kind of rubber fabric cover that covers the linkage. You put your shifter in neutral. I've already disconnected this one. So I've already disconnected this linkage here. It's pretty simple. There was a cotter pin holding it in just like there was on this one, a cotter pin. Just slide the cotter pin out. And after you've got that, this threaded rod that goes to the transmission will just slide out if you pull that. So I found it was really tight going on there. It was almost impossible to do it. So I put it in the vise right here and then just enough pressure on just to bend it open a bit. So comparing the two, you can see the one on the left, I've been able to bend it just a little bit open. And I'm gonna do the same with the second one and they should go on. Okay, so I think that was a good idea because I was able to get that on. They won't go any on further than that without a lot of pressure, so I'm going to use the nut and the bolt to push that on. Because you also have to push up this piece of rubber at the same time, which makes it very difficult. And it's difficult to get channel locks in here. There's not a lot of space. Okay, those two linkages are back on. And now I just need to do this one. This one right here. Okay, everything is loose and I'm done. Try jacking up the body and see how it goes. Oh, look at that, separating. Yes, yes. Look at that. Okay, so the body's coming up. And there. I'm gonna go work on the other side, jack the other side up now, so I can do it evenly. So different than the Humvee, the H1 has got these huge protective skid plates on the bottom, and they're pretty strong, and center of gravity should be here somewhere, according to what I read, and there's a strong point that's right underneath that center section. And I've done the same on the other side. And I'm trying to spread the load out over a larger area just to protect the body. It's time to jack it up. Briefly, a backtrack here for a second. I was having trouble getting that body mount bolt out from down there by the footwell. But as soon as I jacked it up an inch, it just slid right out so easy. It took all the pressure off. So the body is totally separated and I started to jack it up and it's lifting. So it's already 3/4 of an inch up. Now I have to do the other side. I'm just gonna go up gradually till I get up to 3 inches so I can put the 2-inch spacers in. So I'm going up like a 1/2 inch. And I'm checking everywhere to make sure that nothing is pulling or catching or stretching where it shouldn't. I'm not too worried about the auxiliary tank because it's a rubber hose over there. But the main tank, The main tank is a metal pipe. It's not gas leaking, it's WD-40 because I put it on those Allen key bolts in case they need to come out. So if that pipe needs to come away from the body, it can. That's the back of the truck. So at the front, let's see here. Need to make sure that these fuel lines do not get caught on that. These fuel lines don't get caught on that bracket because they were sticking out here. I need to make sure that they go up inside as the body lifts. Those fuel lines go with it. It is starting to get dark, so I might have to quit for the night, but at 3/4 of an inch up, I don't see anything. I don't see anything really that's stretching or catching. All right, we're at the gas tank here. I do see that right there, there is a hose. Rubber connection goes into the tank, and the pipe is going to catch on the ridge of this body mount bracket. So I'm curious to see what happens as the body goes up, because the tank is supposed to be down, otherwise the drive shaft lands on it. So this section of the pipe right here may have to be removed and just replaced with the rubber. So I don't know if you can tell from the video, I'm standing right in the center of the truck. And even though I've mounted right in the center, the H1 seems to be back heavy on mine. I think because I've got that tire and the rack on the back, it's heavier. So I'm gonna have to shift my center of gravity over to about here, I think, because the front's coming up and the back has settled back down. So you can see from this side as well, center of gravity is not there. It needs to be over about here, I think, because of the tire rack and the tire on the top. I guess if I was smart, I would have taken the tire off to start with. I think I'll lower it back down and I'll do that because I'm going to be putting new wheels and tires on there anyhow. So far I'm only at 3/4 of an inch on my lift, approximately, but it looks like I'm not going to have enough room here. I'm going to have to cut this thing lower. I just didn't want to get near that bolt. So I have no idea what that bolt is for because it just goes through to the other side and there's nothing there. So onto the steering column relocation kit. As the body has come up 2 inches, it leaves a bigger gap on the top up here. So the rubber duck relocation kit comes with this. So as per their photograph, this one, using this hole, goes into the original one there. However, we have a problem. When I put it where the original hole is, right there, it's hitting the steering column and will not allow it to go up. Second part is supposed to go into there, into that hole up there. If it goes there, you see the issue? And there's no other way that it goes in. I've tried every way. I've flipped them around upside down. So it's meant to go like this. The steering column boot goes over top of the steering column, and using these 4 Allen bolts, gets mounted onto there, and this fills the gap up the top. However, the steering column still hits down here. So I'm gonna have to make something. So I've got the original sheet metal that goes on the FIrewall. Which would go like that. So that's supposed to give you the distance to fill in the hole. However, it's not even close. And the hole is actually smaller than the original for the steering rod to go through. I just happen to have this laying around. I don't know. I guess my son must have had it years ago. I found it in the attic. It's a nice piece of aluminum, and it's got some kind of a surface on each side. I figure that'll be a good thing to cut a template with. So using the rubber duck spacer as a template where this goes on, the steering guard boot, I've marked the 4 holes, and I measured. I know I need to go up 3/4 of an inch to get it to clear. So the new hole will be drilled here 3/4 of an inch higher than theirs, which would have been here 3/4 of an inch higher. And I've left enough space on the bottom after I cut this out so that I can attach a bottom bolt right there. So I'll be using 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that'll allow me to cut it in half somewhere. So without too much trouble, I use them as templates, and I have moved this hole. It's been moved up 3/4 of an inch up there. This hole has been moved up 3/4 of an inch up there. I'm going to rivet these together so that I can use them. Extra strength, of course. And I've got the bottom. I still need to mark the bottom hole once I kind of get it in place, and I'll figure out where that is. Got those riveted together, and I'll set them in place, see if they're going to work, and figure out where the other hole is down here, and the other hole should be over here somewhere. Okay, temporarily in place. The 2 bolts are just screwed in a little bit. That's better. That looks good. All right, just mark that hole where that needs to go. I just got to figure out where this hole is. Somehow. I'll be back. So it looks pretty good. It's all in place. I had to trim a little bit more of the panel to get to that last bolt in there, but it's in. It's tight. I've caulked behind my main plate, and as I said in the last little video, that I riveted rubber ducks to mine, so it's really filled that hole quite nicely everywhere, and there's caulking behind it. Okay, so the kit comes with bolts, and it's nice that they're actually labeled. I guess it's just that one is labeled. Don't know why. Oh, I see, it's just slightly shorter. That's why. Okay, I'm going underneath to put that first block underneath the driver's side, which I think is the hardest one. And obviously I'm making sure that I'm safe. The truck comes down. So I've got the spacer in there, and I think it's as tight over as it can go. I have a feeling that Alright, so that bolt is not going to come over because of this line right here. Since I'm underneath the truck, I can't really tell which one it is. Try to see if the bolt is at least there. Yeah, there's the end of the bolt showing through. Let's just put that to the side for a second. Okay. Can't go straight up. I can pretty much go straight up, I think, if I can hold it there. Okay, there's my new spacer. And I've got the bolt came in from the top easily enough. You can see it up there. Can you still see that? Okay. Putting my hand up through the hole in the control arm as much as I can. spacer in my other hand here. And of course I forgot to put my safety glasses on. Oh, what a dummy. I'm not going out right now. I gotta get this underneath that one. Come on. There. Shave part of that off. Or maybe not. Through. Okay. All right, so the bottom original spacer, make sure it goes on the right way. This side goes up. Into that. Use my other hand. Okay, so this bottom spacer is having a hard time going up onto here. You see how that rubber's got a little bit of lip on it, and this one, there you go. Let's use the other one here. Okay, here's the one from the middle. You see how it's recessed? And that square, let's get rid of the bolt. You can see that it's supposed to recess into there, but I think because it's older, so we're gonna do a little trick that I learned from my motocross days. Got some dishwashing liquid, and I'm going to put it up on there. Pull it out to do it, but I can't because the bolt's already through enough, and I'm gonna have to jack the truck up again because I already lowered it. Okay. Sorry, I wasn't watching the phone as I was doing that camera, so I hope Anyway, you get the gist of it. Up in there easier. It's got to fit up nice and tight so that I can get the nut underneath. I'm gonna have to use my two hands again. Okay, it was really awkward trying to get light's terrible there. Trying to get the bolts to come through there because it's tight going through that bottom spacer. So as you can see, I've got a pry bar right here and just pushed up on it. Put the lube in the hole, and then you can, I don't have an extra third hand here, but I was able to get my small hammer, my little, that thing, I can't even think right now, on the top, and just tap it down by holding the pry bar, and the threads came through enough, so I'm going to pull it through a little more, and then I should be able to just slip the nut on there. You don't want the bolt to come down too far because otherwise you won't be able to get the nut on there. Oh, I also did lift the body up just slightly to take the pressure off of that. So let me use my other hand to get the nut started. Okay, so with a bit of finagling, I just lubed the heck out of this and got some lube on the bolt as well. And just able to slip it down, and it wouldn't go through because it was tight against the shaft. So I lifted the body up just a little bit to relieve the pressure on there, and then the nut slipped through, and then you got to get your fingers in totally at an awkward angle, and I'm actually turning that nut onto the bolt. So I'm not going to tighten it or anything. Actually, I'm gonna have to see if the top is turning. Okay, I just had an epiphany. Lift the body up a little bit more and release the pressure off of this. So that's loose, and that lets this push up more. And then I'll use the length of the bolt to go through and get onto the nut, and then compress it together. I'm gonna feel really stupid if that's as easy as it is. Okay, so I lifted the body just enough so that I could still rotate this upper spacer. And that allowed me to lift this one that has the male end sticking down, lift it up just enough so that I could push this lower spacer up tight against the frame, put the washer in, and jam the 3/4 inch underneath it. And I can feel the hole, and there should be enough room for me to get the nut there. So I'm just going to drop down, lower the body enough so that that bolt will start to come through. In the meantime, I'm going to put another spacer. Well, maybe I won't need it. Yeah, I am going to put it under there just in case. I don't want it to lose this. I can't even say my words, I'm so tired. All right, so my spacer idea worked. So I've got the bolt coming through, but the trick is I can't get my fingers in there now to thread it on. Yeah. If I take the wooden spacers out, if I take the wooden blocks out, it's just going to drop down again. Keep trying. Let's check this out. There's a hole on the side of the bracket, and I was able to get this big pry bar up in here like this. Turn it this way, put it through the hole. I had the washer on there as well, and I was able to compress it, holding it up like this with the spacer on there, mind you. It's not on there at the moment because the nut, I tried threading the nut on, and the nut fell back down inside the frame rail there. So I had to take the spacer off again to get the nut. So we're going to try again, only just using the pry bar to hold the spacer up, because I was able to get enough pressure with the wooden blocks and the pry bar by dropping the body that the two bushings here compressed together, and the male end popped into the female end, and it's just sitting there, and the thread on the bolt is exposed. It's getting really dark, so it's hard to see. I'm doing my best here. Don't beat me up, guys. I'm not a professional. Okay, through trial and error, I have accomplished that. That was tough, but the trick was to compress these two spacer bushings together so that they would, the male end would go in the female end. That was the hard part. And then, because I think if you had two people, it'd be easier, because you could use two hands to hold this nut at the same time when somebody's turning the bolt at the top. But I don't have that luxury. As I said, also I put the pry bar through this hole on the side of the bracket to help hold the washer in place. But while doing that, I couldn't hold the nut and try to turn it on with one hand. It just didn't have the room to get my fingers in there. So what I ended up doing was I pushed the bolt through far enough so I could barely get the nut underneath it, and then I used two hands and just tried to finagle and wiggle till it finally took a thread, and then two threads just kept turning, and then it was like a big sigh of relief because finally it caught hold. So quite pleased with myself about that. So as it's dark and pretty late, Hey Annie. Me and Annie have accomplished not very much today, but at least I know now all the spaces are in. The body lift kit is in, and I bought a torque wrench today, so I'm going to torque it down to specs. 90 pounds is what it says. I've never used a torque wrench, so I think I need to read how to use it. This one, under the drivers, there's no way I'm going to get a torque wrench up there. There just isn't the space. So I tightened it as much as I could using two hands on the ratchet and braced the crescent end wrench against the body and just cranked it as hard as I possibly could. And it's tight. So the truck is down off the lifts, and it's time for me to have a shower because I'm filthy and I think somebody wants to have her dinner. So I'll say goodnight, and tomorrow I'll finish up my report on installing this rubber duck 2-inch body lift kit. Well, day 2, but it's cold and rainy outside, so it's gonna have to wait for another day. Okay, moving on to the passenger side. You have to be careful when lifting it up. I mean, I can't go any higher because then these fuel lines are gonna get pinched. So right now they are moving just enough so I know that they're not pinched, but I have to make enough room so I can get that spacer up in there and make sure you can see it. When this spacer goes in, make sure it goes in that way because it's not going to fit this way. It has to go that way on top. Now if I can get a better view up there. I hope we can see it. One important thing if you're doing this is to remember, don't take this wax membranes off of the washers, because that's what goes between the steel washer and the aluminum body. Otherwise you're going to get electrolysis and then you start that rot thing happening, which is not good. And my truck, although it's a bit grimy under here, it is South Carolina all its life, so there is no rust. Anyway, very important, keep the wax paper on there to stop electrolysis. So instead of just using wax paper like AM General did, I'm going to make my own out of pretty good. It's a little thicker and a little more resilient. This will stop electrolysis from happening. Just used a hole saw, and that was total time about 1 minute. I did find it a little difficult to get this bolt to come through the last section, this steel spacer that sits on the bottom. But there's just enough room for you to get a mallet up on the top. Weird angle, but you can. Okay, that's enough so that I can get the nut on the bottom. The front two are in place, and the nuts are just put on, not even finger tight, I guess. They're snug. And we're going for that Carolina squat look. All right, I'm going to jack up the back now. So I started by jacking it up on the corner back here, and it's going up pretty good, but I don't recommend it because then the body starts to come apart right there, seam. So now I'm going to fix that. So jacking it up there is a better spot. As I was doing over here, this side did not come apart. So I'm making sure that I'm going up a few increments at a time on each side, and then I'm checking to make sure that nothing is binding or stretching or getting ripped out anywhere. I still got to go up another inch on this side, but it looks like everything's pretty much clear. Okay, I have made an error. Not really an error, I mean, it's just They say to jack it up from the sides. So I was going back and forth and jacking it up. And I swear, when this size went up, that tire started to rotate because it was lifted off the ground. I'm thinking, what the heck? It's lifting the frame as well. And I think, I could be wrong, but I think it was making contact right there. And it lifted, put enough pressure on that pipe, the fuel filler pipe, to just take some weight off of the frame, and it shifted the body, which means these bolts should just slide up in there. Let me just take that out, spacer out of there, so you can see what's happening. It's off just enough. I mean, I've really got to, I shouldn't have to, I mean, you've got some play, there's play in it, but I shouldn't have to go that far to get to the hole. So what the heck, did the body shift? And then looking at the center line, I don't know if you can tell, but it's ever so slightly over this way. Same with that bolt, won't go through. And this one, I just put it in for positioning. I still have to put the spacer in the bottom. It's angled back and it's so tight. I mean, it'll barely move. I mean, I can turn it, but there's hardly any wiggle room at all. So I'm wondering if it shifted forward as well. Because when I lowered the hood was not lining up anymore with the bump stop. So I think I cinched it over a little bit. I had to charge my phone. I put a tie down through there, took it up and looped it around there once, and took it down here to the bumper, and I cinched it over a little bit while the body was still sort of, the weight was carried by the jacks. And it shifted a little bit. I think I have to do some more to get that. And I think I'm also going to try to pull it backwards a little bit by hooking on here, the tie down, and then either taking it to that point or down here and then ratchet it. See if I can ratchet it back, or at least to hold it in position so it doesn't move again. So I did get the body a bit out of alignment because I put the jack underneath the slanted part of the body, which was a mistake, and it made the body shift slightly forward and over to the left. So therefore I put a ratchet strap on the bumper and up underneath onto the tub, and I just, once I took the pressure off of the weight of the body by using the jacks on both sides so it was elevated, I just used the ratchet strap and cranked it over until I could push the bolts up by hand through the hole, which is pretty simple because I was kind of stressed out because I had the body out of alignment, but now it's nice and straight. Pushing those bolts up through there can be quite strenuous trying to get the nut on, so I cut a 2x4, put it underneath like a lever, and then pushed up on it, and it was pretty simple then with that force to hold it up there in order to get the nuts on the top. Putting the back spacer on was pretty straightforward. It was very simple. There was only 2 bolts to take out, and they supplied with new ones, and they went straight up in. This was like a 5-minute job to put that whole back end on, or the body spacer, I mean, and it turned out pretty nice. Disconnecting the 4 bolts that hold the universal and the drive shaft to the rear diff. And if you can't get all 4, you just have to roll the truck forward or backwards to get to it. Okay, after you get all the bolts loose, take them out, take that little piece off. The drive shaft should shift forward. Okay, that's not moving. Let's pry that out of there just a little bit. forward a little bit. Drop it down. Yeah, of course it's hitting up there. Crap. What is hitting? My drive shaft is not dropping down like it should because it's hitting this bolt that's holding the heat shield to the muffler. So I'm just going to take that bolt out. Okay, the drive shaft is loose, but it still will not drop down because of this heat shroud and this bolt strap that's holding the gas tank in. So by pushing the drive shaft up and pulling it up so it just rests, pulling it backwards so it just rests up there, that now gives access to this top nut, this top bolt. Sorry, I can get up there with so now the drive shaft's pushed backwards and above the universal where it connects into the differential. I can now get my ratchet up on top of this tank strap bolt, and I'm going to undo the nuts on the straps and lower the tank, and hopefully that should be enough. I can get the drive shaft out so I can put the spacers in above the gas tank. All right, now see if I can hold that. Okay, that came off. Now the front one is easy access. I need to bring the jack in to hold the weight of the gas tank. There's not much gas in it. Okay, so far in my opinion, the gas tank has been the toughest thing. Putting in these straps, these extended straps, to lower the tank. This one wasn't so bad replacing. That's the driver front. There's a slot at the top, if you can see that. So the strap, you push it up and rotate it 90 degrees, and then it just slides out. So now I've got to get that one, which is the passenger front. It's really hard to see it up there, I know. Pry the gas tank over a bit. It's up there. I've got to try to rotate that. I hope there's enough room. So the drive shaft wasn't that hard to take out at all. Just had to really give it a few good yanks to get it out of there. And I've lowered the gas tank. You need to make sure that you disconnect the fuel tank selection pipe hose from the body up there to give it a little bit of slack because it's pretty tight. I did loosen it. I loosened it up there. I'll retighten it later. I just wanted to see because I've lowered it down so I can get the blocks in. Taking out this retaining strap that's there. So I found that what's stopping the tank from dropping is that hose that connects the fuel filler pipe. So I've loosened it. I'm trying to wiggle it out of there. Boy, it is tough. Once I get it out, I'm afraid of how am I going to get it back in again. I might have to get a longer hose, bend it or something, or I might have to, I don't want to, but I might have to cut the fuel filler pipe and just get an extension hose to go down, because no matter what, we're going to catch on this bracket up here. But that has got to, if you can see that wiggling, that's got to come off the tank in order for the tank to drop down enough so I can get the new straps in place, because the old ones I just can't get to them without removing the tank. So further to this, if you can see that rectangle piece back there, how can I do this? I'm gonna try to wiggle it. This is the supporting strap for the gas tank, and getting that one out of there tank has got to come down, or at least so I can down enough and push it over to get out of there. But I can't push it over because it won't come off of here, off the fuel filler neck. Okay, sure is awkward getting your hands up in there, but it's doable. You gotta tighten it up. This is the back driver's side strap. Nine sixteenths wrench on the top, and you gotta really support your body weight. And I'm sure glad I don't have the bigger tires on here yet. All right, we're not fooling around anymore. Check that out. Okay, get that up in there. Hold that wrench. Get on there. There we go. Front passenger side is one of these T junctions. Up in there. I'm having a hard time getting the gas tank to go over enough to get that thing to come out. This is the way that it sits. And you've got this end here at the top, and you need to turn it this way so that it'll drop down. And I cannot, the gas tank won't go over anymore. So I'm gonna need two hands to wiggle this thing around. Good grief. Good times. Okay, I need two hands to do this. So I talked to the guys at Rubber Duck. They were really helpful. And they suggested I take the wheel off. So this is the passenger rear wheel. Take the wheel off in order I can get to that nut up there, which holds the rear strap on the first tank to the top. And they suggested putting a 1/4 inch ratchet on the top, since it's the only thing that'll fit to get up. Can't even see it in there, I don't think. Anyway, we're gonna try that. So the fuel filler neck is disconnected, just so you can see, but I also need to take off the vent hose. Just make sure that goes the right way, because it's gonna get tighter here. It's really tight, so I need to run it on the other side of this brake line. So disconnecting the vent line, I'm going to reroute that. The line has been disconnected from the body, and I'm going to reroute it behind this brake line after I get that bolt undone, that nut. Fuel filler neck is disconnected, and I did pull it through the hole. It just takes a little bit of a tug, it doesn't hurt it. And then it should be able to just come out of the gas tank. Good. Set that somewhere safe where it's not going to get dirt in it. Be right back. So, the connector hose did come off the tank pretty easily. Just had to wiggle it and it came out past the body mount. Set that over here so it doesn't get dirt in it. Now I have access to get to those bolts, and no wonder I couldn't get a ratchet on there before. It's all covered in muck up there. There we go. So I was able to get that loose. Pull one out, and the new one's going to go in. Make sure that you put it this way. It's my foot holding the gas tank over. There we go. Okay, we'll put the nut back on. Okay, that strap is in, tightened. We're putting the hose, filler hose connector back in. There we go, that's on. Yeah. Lowered the gas tank this far to get that out of there. So you have to try to get this turned that way, lifting it up and turning it. Come on, beggar. So if you can see up there, I used a square to pry it over. Now I gotta rotate that even more. Come on. Stinking tank. I think I might get a 2x4 and put it up here and block it. So I jammed a 2x4 in here to hold it. And it's just enough for me to wiggle it. Now we have to get it to go north. This pry bar. Come on. Boy, I hope the other one is going to go in easy enough. Did it come out? Oh, bugger, it went all the way to the other side. Come on, come on, come on. Don't go back there again. Let's try that pry bar again. It's like right there. Okay, that did it. Got it out. Now, take the rubber off. So notice the way it went on. So, weld on the outside of the rubber. Weld on the outside of the rubber on the new one. Okay, ready to go back in. Okay, here we go. Yes. I just gotta turn it. There we go. All right. So to put the spacer block in, the easiest way is to go up over the transfer case, right in line with the strap here. So this has got to go right between the two straps on top of the tank up there. Okay, I took this strap out for a second because it's super easy to take out, just so I can try to get light up there on my phone. Yep, it looks like I got it incorrect. It's correct. That's where it should sit. Okay. Okay, there's the front of the truck. Your second spacer block goes above the gas tank. Goes above the gas tank. There's actually a groove there. And make sure you get it straight. So it rests against this cross member and the tank. Like that. I'm just gonna go and check from the other side and make sure that it's not hitting anything. You ever have a runaway nut? So I'd come all the way to the hardware store to get a nut because it ran away. I looked everywhere. So we got two just in case. Okay, gas tank still propped up, it's in place. Got the new bolts, the new brackets, this is the last one. (9/16) just so I got everything ready. All right. Time to put the drive shaft back in. The tank is all buttoned up. Slides right in. So make sure to drop it in your face. And I have the wheel off. It's before I put the wheel back on, I might as well tighten up these body spacers while I got lots of room, and then I'll put back the fuel filler. My concerns when I was lowering the gas tank was the connector hose to the filler neck. I didn't think that that hose would have enough room. However, okay, fuel filler neck is attached. It's on. I still have to put the bolts in up there, but rerouting this vent line on the inside of the brake line gave me enough room that I need. Special note, put these bolts, Allen bolts, in before you tighten the hose and before you put this bracket on. Otherwise, it's really difficult to put them in because I've stripped one Allen bolt, so I'm gonna have to go and get another one. That stinks, but anyway, it's in straight, it's on. Now I can tighten that up. Just have to replace one Allen bolt. Don't forget that when you put the clamp that holds the vent line on, to put the ground on there. Note to self, the air vent clamp is 3/8 and the filler neck clamp is 7/16. Good. That's all buttoned up and tight. Ready to torque down all the body mounts. So included with the rubber duck full 2-inch lift kit comes a 2-inch baffle for the air intake. It's Pretty cool. I'll save these ones for when I get the new airlift hooks put on the front. Okay, the next morning, working on the Hummer. I did some last night. It was too dark to do any filming. Put that block in the dark. Got to loosen it off and straighten that out. But anyway, it was pretty straightforward and easy. Took like 5 minutes to take all 4 of those bolts out. I used a 2x4 just to prop up the hood. Okay, so pieces on the top, like this, and you put the new spacer. They're not paying me, so I'm not advertising them. We put the logo at the back. That goes like that, and then the original spacer goes on, and the hinge housing. You'd think for $1,100 and change that they would give you all the hardware. They give you the bolts, but no nuts and no washers. So luckily Home Depot is around the corner, so I went to get some washers and nuts. So once that housing's together, I'm just tipping it into place like that. Put the nuts on from the bottom. That spacer that goes on the bottom. So I haven't tightened the bolts yet. I just out with my arm, that's how easy it is. Just lifting the hood a little bit and pushing the pin all the way through to the other side. So that's loosely in place. Now I'm just going to close the hood and line it up on the stop at the back. There. Once that's nice and solid in place, then I'll tighten down the bolts. It's all straight. So clamped it down in place so it can't really move. It's nice and straight lined up at the back. You can actually push the hood front to back. So I gave it a little bit of shove back so that it works well with the hood release inside. Straighten up the blocks. I'm going to put in the cotter pins after I tighten it down. So it looks good, it's all aligned. As I expected though, I thought that, you know, with the 2-inch lift that the brush guard is going to sit low. I don't think anybody really notices, but I do. I think I need to try to find one of those new Alpha brush guards to put on. And I got to get the new sky hooks. Next thing to do is to drill out these rivets so that I can move this 2 inches up to put in the go. So I find this quite curious, interesting, that the shroud and the guide for the bolt that goes through it on the inside are OD military green. Proof that they do come off of the same assembly line at some point. That's pretty neat. So I just measured 2 inches up. 2 inches up from that hole, and 2 inches up from that hole, and then mark the center between all 4. So I drilled a 3/16 pilot hole in the middle in those 5 because 3/16 is the size of the factory rivet, which I have right here. And the center hole, this one is 1 inch and 1/8. However, it's a little bigger than the diameter where it needs to go into. So since I don't, my next size drill bit up from that is a little bigger, so I have a 1 inch. Perfect fit. All right, good. So I got a hole plug from Home Depot in the hardware department, 1 1/8, and it is a perfect fit. This just a shot to show you the finished shroud for the breaker reservoir, how I finished that off. The anvil motor works. Bracket replaces the H1 bracket. It's this one right here. It not only lifts the hood, it also lifts the brush guard as well. And I will say that as I had the wheels off, I did restore underneath all the suspension. Took some pieces off and painted them, and other things I left on, and cleaned them up and painted them in place. I'm still a work in progress on this. I also removed the exhaust pipe, stripped it, and painted it with high heat metal paint as well. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Give me a thumbs up or feel free to comment. I will answer what I can. And I hope it really helps you guys with yours as well, and I look forward to seeing other people's builds.